This is Anna Patterson with the North Carolina Housing Coalition. Thank you for joining us this morning for our housing call. And without further ado, I will turn it over to our Executive Director, Samuel Gunter, and our Director of Housing Policy, Stephanie Watkins-Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. This is Samuel Gunter from the Executive Director of the North Carolina Housing Coalition, and I'm going to get us started with a couple of things. A lot to update you on. I'm going to let Stephanie walk through some of that, but I'm going to do a couple of organizational reminders and kick off our federal housing update. So a couple of things on the North Carolina Housing Coalition front. Reminder for those of you who participated in the Housing Day, which was absolutely incredible. Thank you to all of you who showed up from nearly 50 counties across the state, doing more than 100 legislative visits. It was an incredible, gorgeous day. There is a survey for those of you who participated. So the link is in the call notes. So if you registered and attended, please fill out that survey by April 25th. We also want to let you know that Bringing It Home registration closes on May 2nd at 5 p.m. So that is coming up. This is a conference taking place May 15th and 16th at the McKimmon Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. Please note that all sessions will be available through the virtual conference, but you can also register to attend in person. Again, registration closes on May 2nd. We are also, in advance of our fall conference, we are accepting nominations for our housing awards. So don't miss the opportunity to showcase your work or the work of some folks doing incredible stuff on the ground across the state. This is going to be our 36th annual Housing North Carolina Awards. To nominate any property type, so this is for the Housing Coalition, rental, homeownership, supportive housing for consideration. Recognition will be given in the following categories: innovation in housing, excellence in sustainability, creative partnerships and community impact, and any property can be entered for consideration in any of the categories. There's an online portal for that. We'll include it in the housing notes. So that's some organizational stuff to get out of the way, and we're going to turn real quick to federal housing policy. I'm going to kick us off, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie Watkins-Cruz to run you through more updates. But the thing that I want to get us kicked off with is what happened over the last week with AmeriCorps. So for those of you who have AmeriCorps members at your site, who are work alongside AmeriCorps, or like myself and Haley, who were AmeriCorps alumni, the DOGE team hit AmeriCorps, and it resulted in a number of staff at the national office taking the deferred buyout, which led to the demobilization, is the term they use, but essentially closing and recalling the NCCC program nationwide. And then following the demobilization of the NCCC program, essentially most of the staff was put on administrative leave. For those of you who have AmeriCorps Vista or state and local AmeriCorps at your site, like us who place 2 AmeriCorps members, Vista members at housing counseling agencies across the state, we have not yet received any official word from AmeriCorps about this happening. And I don't believe that you have either, but we know that most of the national staff is on leave, has no access to their systems. If this is something that has impacted you, please let us know. And it is a very good time to talk to your congressperson and your senator about the impact of the loss of AmeriCorps members. I know a number of you have relied on them over the years to do some incredible frontline work for y'all. This is pressing, and there's still a lot we don't know about is this permanent? We don't know. No, again, no official communication has gone out. So I wanted to kick us off with that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie Watkins-Cruz, who's going to walk us through all the other things happening at the federal and state level.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Going to keep the updates going. So we have an advocacy opportunity with the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act, The latest version has been reintroduced as of 2 weeks ago. And the action campaign is circulating an organizational sign-on letter calling on members of Congress to support this reintroduced version. Just as a reminder, this legislation would help the country's severe shortage of affordable rental housing by expanding, strengthening, and protecting the housing credit. The House version was recently reintroduced, and an identical Senate bill is expected to be reintroduced soon as well. Just for some context, the House bill has more than 1/4 of the House of Representatives co-sponsoring it already. So the campaign really hopes to have a strong bipartisan list of original co-sponsors in the Senate as well. And they are going to send this letter to Congress soon after the Senate version is reintroduced. They're working really hard to demonstrate support for the bill from businesses, nonprofits, and public agencies across the country. So we ask you to join us and share the letter with your networks and sign on if your organization isn't already a member of the Action Campaign. The deadline for organizations to sign on to the letter is close of business on Friday, May 2nd. We have several links in here for you. A link to the letter so you can read it, a link to see if your organization is already a member, a way to sign the letter itself, as well as other bill materials to talk about and kind of further understand the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act and why it matters so much for housing and in our housing ecosystem. Also, earlier this month, we just want to lift up that Senator Thom Tillis and 5 other colleagues introduced the Housing Supply Frameworks Act, which would actually help encourage communities to adopt needed zoning and land use reforms, such as decreasing parking minimums and increasing density allowances in order to increase the production of affordable housing. This bill is endorsed by a lot of our colleagues, especially and our colleagues at the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, and it's something we support as well. And I think it's a very good example of how housing is becoming top of mind, is staying top of mind for many folks, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. Moving on to state and local updates. It was a busy week last week. The General Assembly is currently on break until next Monday, where they'll reconvene. But last week, the Senate released their budget on Monday for the fiscal year 25 through 27. We have a budget that's on a biennium schedule, so 2-year budget. And it was discussed in committees on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then on Wednesday afternoon, it was discussed on the Senate floor. It actually passed the Senate chamber on Thursday morning. And this week, even though they're off break, we'll be working to develop some additional talking points and reaching out to different members on both sides of the House, and then continuing to contact folks on the Senate side to talk about some of our thoughts on the budget so far as it relates to housing. In particular, we're pleased to see that the Housing Trust Fund was funded. However, the Workforce Housing Loan Program was not funded in the Senate version. It's early on in the process, and we recognize that. But this is one of the key reasons why we advocate for the Workforce Housing Loan Program to be a recurring allocation. Unfortunately, even though an amendment was introduced on Wednesday afternoon, it was a very lively 3.5, 4-hour session where over 40 amendments were introduced. The amendment to reinstate the Workforce Housing Loan Program with funding in the Senate version of the budget did not pass. It was tabled. So just want to lift up for you, and we'll have this linked in the call notes. Why does the Workforce Housing Loan Program matter? This program was established in 2014, and it replaced the state housing tax credit that we had at one point. It's used in conjunction with federal tax credits for the construction and preservation of affordable rental units across the state. It's important to note that since its creation, this appropriation has actually never been decreased. It's only grown, and it's been crucial for development and preservation, but it's also been a really good model of how effectively public funds can be leveraged with private investment for community benefits, especially in rural areas or areas where the rents make it a bit more challenging to actually have a LIHTC development. Since its creation, it supported the development of over 2,700 rental units. So in the last decade, essentially, 2,700 rental units from this one resource. This also ensures that our low-income housing tax credit developments reach all types of areas in our state. So not only urban areas, but rural areas as well. So I cannot emphasize the importance of that enough. We're also watching several different bills, and we are working on a more in-depth analysis on what this could mean, and as well as some more communications on how you can show up and communicate with your representatives next week when they come back. House Bill 437 is a bill that actually passed the House, and it's a bill to make homeless shelters an area both within and outside of them drug-free. There's also another bill that has a lot of mixed reviews, House Bill 765, that aims to remove a lot of barriers for the development and creation of housing and supply, but also does quite a number on impacting how local governments can and can't go about doing that and implementing their land use policies. And then there's also a bill that recently passed the House that actually approved the study of the state's property tax relief programs, which is a welcome bill and is a small step in the direction to reforming these programs as we see more and more energy around property tax equity and the kind of redistribution of that burden being really necessary. I also want to lift up that last week, the North Carolina Attorney General, Jeff Jackson, announced that he has reached a settlement with Cortland Management, which is North Carolina's second largest landlord. Cortland is one of the big landlords that was sued in January for illegally working with other landlords and RealPage AI software in order to raise rents across the state. The company has agreed to stop using RealPage software and to illegally set prices for rentals, and will pay each state that it's involved in a lawsuit with. It will pay each of them a part of the settlement. Cortland will also stop using non-public data from other landlords to set rent. And this actually makes it one of the first settlements to restrict a major landlord from unlawfully using RealPage. So a big win here. Moving on to events, reports, resources, and things in the news. Just want to lift up a few different things. Highly recommend checking out a webinar on April 23rd. It's a webinar talking about the new challenges in fair lending and navigating the 2025 landscape with the National Community Reinvestment Coalition. That'll be from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. and the link to register is in the call notes. On April 24th at 1 p.m., the Southern Economic Advancement Project is hosting another webinar titled Uncharted: Navigating the New Federal Landscape. This is, I believe, now their second or third, and they're continuing to provide some really timely updates for organizations, nonprofits, other local governments, and different agencies within our region. So definitely make a note to check that out as well. The NAACP Lexington branch on April 26th, so this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., is having a housing resource fair in person at Charles England Elementary School. So if you are in that area or around that area and are interested, please make a note to check that out. The link is in the call notes as well. The National Alliance to End Homelessness is hosting a webinar at 3 p.m. on April 30th. Will they be looking at housing-focused street outreach and using data to inform decision-making? And of course, we've already lifted up our Bringing It Home conference on May 15th and 16th. Reminder that registration closes May 2nd. There is a virtual option available. For those that have been, you all know, though, the in-person option is wonderful. And it's oftentimes in times like this, a really important decision to be able to come together and fellowship together. On the reports and resources side, many of you probably already know this, but a reminder that on April 1st, so earlier this month, this data, the HUD income limits for 2025 went into effect. A reminder that this data set is updated annually, and it actually includes a chart detailing median family incomes for each county, as well as the income limits for different income ranges. So the 30%, 50%, and 80% of area median income for households by size. And these are the income limits that are used to determine the eligibility for various federal programs like Section 8 and other programs. There's also a chart detailing these data points at the state level. And I just want to lift up a few things. One, our North Carolina median family income actually increased from $88,600 to $895,000. And then for a family of four, the new statewide area median incomes are $28,500 for 30% of the AMI, $47,500 for 50% of the AMI, and $76,000 for 80% AMI. And just for context on that 50% AMI, The starting teacher pay in North Carolina is about $42,700. So 50% AMI being at $47,500, we already start to see those gaps. And we know for a fact that there are plenty of gaps for the 30% and even at the 80% level as well. Just want to emphasize this because last week we mentioned this too. Because of all the changes and the scrubbing that's been happening on websites, go ahead and access the full data set and remember to download it. That way you have it, you're able to access it, even if you don't administer a program, but you use the information in any way or you want to understand it better, go ahead and download it and save it. That's all we have for you today. We have a lot of different pieces in the news for you to check out. Make sure that you look through those. If you attended Housing Day, make sure to fill out the survey by April 25th, and we will talk to you next time.